Have you ever wanted the bash shell to insult you when you got a command wrong? Well, there are a lot of scripts out there that will do just that. They will change your bash shell to where it will deliver an insult anytime you make a mistake. But that's not really the main purpose of this video. I'm going to show you one such bash insulter script. But because these scripts are so simple, they're really easy to hack on and modify, and I'm going to show you how you can modify these kinds of scripts to your needs with commands like wget and then with extensible editors like Vim or Emacs. Let's get started. So the script I'm going to show you guys today is one called Bash Insulter. I've seen a few articles written about Bash Insulter in the last few months. I've seen this particular script mentioned a few times on various Linux-related subreddits, so it randomly insults the user when he types a wrong command. If you want to look at the source, if you ignore the license and the README, it's really just one little shell script that says print message, local messages, and then you have this messages array, which is all the various quotes, the insults that it has to choose from randomly to insult you. So it's not a very difficult script to interpret. If you guys are not familiar with shell scripting, I promise you can probably read that script and figure out exactly what it's doing. But say I wanted to insult myself with more insults than just what was in this script, because this script has, 50, 60 insults. Some of them are actually kind of stupid. What if I wanted to change it to my own kind of insults? Or maybe I want to change it out to where it's not insults at all. Maybe it's famous quotes or something. But I'm going to stick with the insults theme, but I want to change these insults to some better insults. So I came up with a couple of different lists of insults that I thought were really interesting, really neat, and I thought kind of classy. So I did a quick Google search for list of insults or collection of insults, and of course you get a bunch of pages, and I found this one. This is a list of Luther's insults. So for those of you that are Lutheran or just Christian in general, these are some interesting little insults. For example, this one here: I am tired of the pestilent voice of your sirens. I wouldn't mind if the bash shell threw out some of these Lutheran insults at me every now and then. So I'm going to try to add that to the bash insulter. And you know what? Another one, just to have a little more culture here, was a list of the Shakespearean insults. So I found this webpage of the top 50 Shakespeare insults. You know what? I wouldn't mind adding those to the bash insulter. So what's the best way to go about adding the Shakespearean insults and the Lutheran insults to the bash insulter? Well, first, let's bring up a terminal. And what you need to do is you need to basically just download that web page. That's all you really need to do. And one of the command line tools you can use to do this is a tool called Wget. Wget, and then a URL, and it will go and grab that web page and download it. So I'm going to go ahead and Wget the Lutheran insult web page, and then I'm going to Wget the Shakespearean insult web page. Now, once I have those, I can open these in Vim. So if I Vim, and let's start with the Lutheran one. So I will Vim insult-list.php was what it named itself when it downloaded. This is that PHP file that we just downloaded. Now if I go back to the browser for a second and go back to the source code for the bash insulter script, you see for these insults to be in the array, the messages array, they simply need to be, it looks like they need to be indented about 8 spaces over and then wrapped in double quotes. So that's all we really need to know. Let me get back to the terminal. So the reason I opened this in Vim, or I could have opened this in Doom Emacs, which uses the Vim modes and key bindings, it really didn't matter which one I chose for this. GG to get to the top of the page. The reason I'm going to do this is because it makes editing a really crazy file like this PHP file a lot easier, because I can use substitutions, search and replace. I can use macros to really edit this file in such a way that I can just plug it into that bash script. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to Shift V to get into visual mode, and I am going to get rid of the first few lines here because, quite frankly, we don't need them. Then I'm going to record a macro. To record a macro in Vim or in Emacs, if it uses the evil mode, you do Q to record a macro, and then the letter you want to assign that macro. I'll name it R for purposes of this. So it says recording at R. Now everything I do from here on, Vim is recording. Here is what I want this macro to do. I want to do a slash for search, and then I want it to search for p class equals large. And you see it goes to that line. I hit enter, and then when it gets to this line, I want it to shift V to get into visual mode, and I want it to go down that many times. I want it to delete, and then I want to escape, and then hit Q to kill the macro. I'm going to run this macro. I don't know how many times I need to run it. I'm going to run it 100 times. So I'm going to do 100 at R. All right, and I'm assuming it finished doing what it's doing. So if I go back to the top, you know, already we cleaned up this document a little bit because it got rid of, basically some of the headings is what we just deleted. So if I went back to that Lutheran page here, basically we got rid of that line, you know, every time there's a new subsection, the headings, I'm not going to need that, so that's what we just got rid of there with the Vim macros. Now let's get rid of some other stuff. So I'm going to Q to record a macro again. This time I'll set it to the letter E. So it's recording. Now what I want to do is I want to search for the ending T-body tag. Now, because the ending T-body tag has a slash, we need to escape that character. So first do /, then slash T-body. If you don't do that, it's not going to work correctly for you. Then hit enter to get to that line, and then what I want to do a 3DD to delete 3 lines. And then I'm going to escape, Q to kill the macro, and then I'm going to run that. That did what I wanted it to do, cleaned up the document a little bit more, and I could keep doing these macros. You know, if I wanted to, I could just hit Q and then Q again, and now I'm recording a Q macro. What I'm going to do now is this time I want to search for every TR tag. Going to hit enter, and when I find this, I want to do a 2DD to delete 2 lines. I'm going to hit Q to kill the macro. Now I'm going to run that macro 100 at Q. And again, we just keep deleting extra stuff. You can already see we are almost there. We have cleaned this document up really nicely. The only thing I need to do now, I need to do a search and replace. I want to replace the opening TD tags with a quote, and then I want to replace the closing TD tags, obviously, with a quote. And then all I need to do is simple search and replace to get rid of the closing TR tags that are still here. So to do this search and replace, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a %S. I want this to replace this every instance that it happens in the document, and then do a slash. What do I want to replace? I want to replace that opening TD tag, you know, that every line has. Then a slash again. What do I want to replace the TD tag with? Well, I want to replace it with a double quote. Then another slash, and then G. And then hit enter. And it says 432 substitutions were made, so there were a lot of TD tags in this document. Some of them were probably extra stuff. If I go to the bottom of the document, you know, there's still a lot of HTML that I'm not going to use, but that's fine. And that's an easy thing to delete at the end. And then the next thing I need to do, I'm going to do colon, and I'm just going to hit up arrow because I'm going to basically run that same command, but I'm going to do the closing TD tag. Now remember to escape that slash. Now hit enter. And it got rid of 432 instances of closing TD tags. GG back to the top of the document. And really, you guys can already see the last thing to do is just to get rid of the closing TR tags. So just going to get rid of TR. What am I going to replace it with? I'm going to replace it with nothing. And then one more time, I'm going to go ahead and do the opening TR tags because it looks like there were a few of those still left here. GG to get back to the top. Now we need to correct the spacing, so I'm going to get back to the very first line here. I'm going to go to the beginning of the line, and I'm going to do Control V, which is the visual block mode. And then I'm going to Control G. Let's go all the way to the bottom. So basically I just chose the empty space that is in front of every line, and it's a pretty big chunk of spaces, more than I need. But for sake of this video, really what I want to do is I just want to delete all of that empty space. So I'm just going to hit D. Now GG back to the top of the document, and you can see I got rid of that space in front of every line. Now I'm going to run this command to actually put the spacing exactly right, because in that bash script, if I go back to the bash script, you can see that that array has 8 spaces in front of the line. So that's what we need to do. We need to put 8 spaces in front of every line, and this is really easy to do in Vim. Just Control V again at the top to get into visual block mode. I'm going to capital G to go all the way to the last line to choose every line. And then let's get into command mode. So hit colon, and then you got single quote, less than sign, comma, single quote, greater than sign. Now, what does that mean? It means we're going to run this command on the lines that are selected. In this case, every line. You didn't actually have to type that, at least not in my Vim. It just automatically puts that in there for you, so you don't have to worry about remembering the single quote greater than, less than thing. Do a space and then type the word norm. And we're telling Vim here to run this command I'm about to do in normal mode. And the command I want it to run is capital I. Capital I gets you into insert mode and goes to the beginning of the line. And then what do you want to do after it runs? Capital I, well, I want it to space. And I want it to space 8 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hit enter. And we just put 8 spaces in front of every line. Now we're good. We're done with the Lutheran insults. We can just go and plug that into the source code for that bash script. It can just go in the messages array just like all these messages that were already here. How cool is that? And we can do the same with the Shakespearean insults as well. So I just opened the Shakespearean insult page that we pulled down with Wget, and this is a massive page. It is 2,066 lines. The good thing is we only need about 100 lines out of this page, so most of it is just going to be deleted, just easy delete. So on line 587 is where I need to start. So I'm going to shift V to get back into visual mode, GG to go to the top of the document, D to delete those first 587 lines. I'm not going to need them. And then there's really only about 100 lines or so of these quotes, and then the rest of it I don't need. So once I get to the last quote here, I'm going to shift V to get into visual mode, capital G to go to the last line of the document, D to delete all that. We just got rid of about 1,375 lines with that last command and about 500 lines with the first command. So that 2,000 line document now is much more manageable, and you can see actually this one will be a little easier to do the substitutions and the macros and get this cleaned up. A lot easier than the Lutheran list was actually. And you know, through the magic of video editing, you guys didn't have to watch me run those substitutions and macros a second time. But this is the list here of the Shakespearean insults. The only thing I haven't done is, of course, I haven't added the spacings. So Control V to get into visual block mode, capital G to go to the bottom of the document. Remember, colon, of course, gets you in command mode in Vim, and automatically it enters the first 5 characters that you needed to type there. You're good there. Space, norm, because you want to do this in normal mode. Run the command capital I, which gets you into insert mode, brings you to the beginning of each line, and then what do you want to do? Once you're at the beginning of each line, you want to space over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Hit enter. Boom. We're done with both lists. Let's plug them into the bash insulter script. I'm going to write and quit. And of course, to plug these into the bash insulter script, we actually need to go get the bash insulter script. So let me go back to the bash insulter GitHub page. Installing it is dead simple. You just need to run 2 commands really. So first things we need to do is we need to go ahead and git clone that script. So now the script is on our system. We need to copy that script over to /etc. Of course, we have to give sudo privileges to copy over to the /etc directory. And then we need to source that list of insults. So Vim, I'm just going to source it locally on my home users bash rc, capital G to go to the bottom of the document, I to get into insert mode. I'm just going to do a quick paste, and I just need to add those 3 lines there. I will make a comment actually just for myself here. I'm going to say bash insulter, escape, write, and quit. And then let's start another bash and see if I type a wrong command, will it actually do something? So instead of echo spelled correctly, let's do echo not spelled correctly. Okay, and it does. It didn't do it on the first one, it did it on the second one. It doesn't do it every time. I know why it doesn't do it every time though. Checking the source code for this. So let me open up the source code for bash insulter. Here in Vim, of course, you've got your array at the top with all the messages, but then right after it, how it actually loads the commands. It picks them at random, but it also at random intervals, it does not actually load an insult. And you see he left a comment in the script. It prints a randomly selected message, but only about half the time, to annoy the user a little bit less. So I guess a lot of people don't want to be insulted every single time they do a wrong command, so it only does it about half the time. So pretty cool. Now, of course, that's the default insults. Let's go ahead and plug in our Lutheran insults and our Shakespearean insults. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run the same vim command I just ran by doing !vim. Because the last command I used vim with, of course, was opening the source code for the bash insulter. Now, the simple way to just add your messages, whatever it is you're wanting to add, is just plug it in to the messages array. But I'm going to do something a little bit different here because maybe I don't want to keep the Lutheran insults all the time or the Shakespearean insults all the time. Maybe I want to mix and match various styles of insults occasionally. So I want separate arrays for all the various kinds of insults. So I'm going to delete messages here. I'm going to CW to change word, and I'm going to do declare -a array1. We're going to change this. We're going to call it array1. And why are we going to do that? Hit escape. The reason we're going to do that is because I'm going to create a couple of more arrays. Let's get to the bottom of array1. That was the end of that list. I'm going to get back into insert mode here and space over. And then I'm going to declare -a array2 equals parentheses. We need to have a closing parentheses, of course. I'm going to escape. And let's go ahead while we're here and do the third array. All right, so now we have 3 different arrays. I GG to get back to the top, though. Remember that this thing is going to search for an array called messages. Messages doesn't exist anymore. We have array1, array2, array3. So here, past array3, we're going to go ahead and create this new messages. Equals and then parentheses. Array1, array2, array3. Of course, we got to do the ending parentheses. And basically, what I just did here is messages. The messages array now is actually a combination of 3 different arrays. I want you to get everything from array 1, everything from array 2, and everything from array 3. And that is now the messages array. And that's what it's going to choose as far as insults at random. It's going to choose from all 3 arrays. Then I just need to plug in the Lutheran insults into array 2. And the Shakespearean insults into array 3. So I plugged in what I wanted to plug in here. So again, we got the array at the top, which was just the default messages that came with the script. And then I've got array 2, and this is where I plugged in the Lutheran insults. And then I've got array 3 right here. That is where I plugged in the Shakespearean insults. And then, of course, after array 3, we have this line messages equals all 3 arrays. Now let me write and quit and clear the screen here. And the thing we need to do now is if we go back to the web browser, remember to install the bash insulter, we needed to run this command here where we copy over the source over to /etc. Since I changed the source, I added the Lutheran insults and the Shakespearean insults. We need to copy the new file to /etc. Rewrite the old one. Now let me start another instance of bash, and now let me start typing wrong commands. Echo not found. Of course, randomly it will insult you, randomly it will not. Remember, that's part of the script. Thou art as fat as butter. I'm pretty sure that came from the Shakespearean array. That was array 3. This is why you get to see your children only once a month. Of course, that's the first array. Oh, you wolf in Christendom. That's probably the Lutheran array. So very cool. It's working. I know it's kind of a bit of a random video today, but you know, you guys sometimes want to see how you go about hacking on your system, playing with scripts and things like that. And I came across the bash insulter the other day. And I was going to put it on my system. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to put it on my system, I should change it up a little bit. And if I'm going to change it up, I should actually get it on camera exactly how you go about this kind of stuff. Because I'm sure a lot of you guys probably don't know about Wget, how you can just download a web page in the terminal with Wget. And then if you're not using a extensible text editor like either Vim or Emacs that, you know, has the really great search and replace functionality and the macros and all of that, you know, if you had to edit, especially that really crazy 2000 line page that I had to edit for the Shakespearean insults, if you had to do that in a standard text editor like gedit or something like that, it might take you an hour to get the result that it took me like 2 minutes to get. And I also need to thank these guys before I go. This show was made possible by Chris, DJ, Donnie, Dylan, George, Haplo, Nate, Lambda, Michael, Mitchell, Omri, Rob, Sean, and Willie. These guys, they're the producers of the show. Without these guys, this episode would not have been possible. The show's also brought to you by all those other names you're seeing on the screen at the moment here. These guys, they help support my work over on Patreon. Without these guys, this channel wouldn't be possible. Sincere thank you to those guys if you'd like to support the channel. Look for DistroTube over on Patreon. I promise you, he's over there. All right, guys. Peace.